Imagine for a moment the world you live in is a vast landscape, a place of constant shifts and changes. Now as you listen to these words, notice how you might begin to feel a subtle yet noticeable change in the way you think about change itself. What would it be like right now if you were simply to let go of the need to understand everything in the moment? Because what happens when you let go of needing to understand right away is you can instead start noticing things differently. You begin to notice how it feels when you step outside of what you know, how it becomes easier and more fluid as you go along. It's like a river flowing, and the moment you let go, the current carries you. And there's something interesting here, isn't there? You may begin to notice every moment, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, it can bring you to exactly the place you need to be. It's not about doing something big or dramatic. It's about the subtle, tiny shifts, like the change of a word or the change in your posture. This can begin to create an entirely new reality for you. Just like when you change a verb, shifting a single word, it can unlock an entirely new emotional experience. Suddenly, without effort, the whole feeling changes. And what happens when that small change happens? Well, it begins to snowball. One simple change leads to another and another, until you find yourself standing in a completely new world. One that's not constrained by the old maps and models that you've been holding on to. In fact, those old maps, they were nothing but labels for things. They were much more fluid, much more changeable. They were models, sure, but those models, they were just constructions. And the real truth was much more dynamic than any label could ever define. Isn't that fascinating? You might find, as you let yourself explore, that you can really begin to see how every moment it offers you the chance to simply be with what is, without needing to make it mean something. And as you learn to be with what is, you find yourself also knowing exactly what to do with the person that's in front of you. It's not about telling them what they should do or giving them solutions. It's about letting them tell you themselves what needs to shift. You don't need to know everything. You just need to listen. When you listen deeply without judgment, without trying to fix anything, what you find is the other person begins to unfold before you. They begin to show you the answers, the subtle changes that they need, without you ever needing to say a word. The questions you ask in this moment, they shift. Instead of asking, how can I help you? You might ask, what is it you want to leave here with today? And in that simple question, you've already begun a process of change. Because the real work, it doesn't always look like work. Sometimes it's just the rhythm of listening, the rhythm of being present with someone, letting them express their desires, their thoughts, their patterns, and simply noticing what's already changing. It's all in the way that you respond, the way you show up. You don't need to force anything. Everything shifts naturally as you stay open to the possibilities. What's fascinating is how everything you do, even the most seemingly mundane actions, like walking, drinking coffee, or sitting with someone, they can be moments of great change. And as you start to realize this, as you begin to understand change doesn't require a ritual, doesn't require a special setup, the world starts to look a little bit different. You can change anything just by deciding to change your approach. Take the verb want, for example. You can shift it to desire, or long for, or even need. Watch how the entire meaning shifts simply by changing the word. Imagine how that works when you change your inner dialogue. When you change the way you speak to yourself, suddenly your world opens up in a way you never expected. This is the power of small, intentional changes. And those small changes, they compound, they multiply. They create the momentum that propels you forward into someone that is entirely different, someone better. So, how do we want to apply this? What part of your practice do you want to focus on? Maybe it's listening. Maybe it's changing the verbs you use. Maybe it's just noticing the tiny shifts, the ones that are already happening without your conscious effort. What would it be like to be twice as good at this? What would it look like? What's the biggest difference you'd notice? And how would you know? How would you know when you've reached this place that you've made those changes? These are the kind of questions that lead to profound shifts. Not because the answers are important, but because the questions themselves, they open up new possibilities. The key to all of this, the key is the application. It's the way you begin to use what you've learned right away, immediately and in small doses, like drops of water wearing down the hardest stone. And as you continue down this path, you'll see it's not about labels, no longer about thinking in terms of conscious or unconscious. Those labels, they're just a reflection of the way that we try to make sense of things. But the truth is much more malleable, much more open to interpretation, much more flexible. It's all about how you perceive things, how you see them. Your mind, like a landscape, is constantly shifting, constantly evolving. You're inside your own map and model, and you can change it all. With each new choice, with each new question, you reshape the way you view the world around you. And it's all happening so naturally, so effortlessly, as long as you stay open and allow the process to unfold. So as you begin to explore, to experiment with these shifts, notice how you become more and more attuned to the subtle changes, the tiny adjustments that lead to profound results. And when you apply that with intention, the sky is the limit. How good do you want to be? How far do you want to go? The only thing that can limit you is your own map. With every question, with every small change, you expand that map, making it broader, more flexible, more open to the vast possibilities that are ahead.